Okay, welcome to Product Development Systems. Here is Barb, and she's going to talk us through Series 4.
All right, guys, welcome. Hope you're having a great day. So today is the last day, so the last series of the marketing series. I hope you guys have enjoyed them so far. And if you guys ever do have any questions, you can just shoot me a message in any way or just comment on the live YouTube. So just to do a quick summary of the past series. So in series 1, we talked about basically what is marketing. We talked about how it applies to FRC, marketing approaches, marketing ethics, equality versus equity, digital marketing mix, social media types. And then in series 2, we talked about the SWOT analysis, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We delved into that a little bit, some branding, and a little bit about public relations. And then in series 3 research, we talked about the types of research. We went into depth on what STP means, which is segmenting, targeting, and positioning. And then we did a little bit on business to business and business to customer. So as I said today, we will be talking about the product development system. So this system is usually about, it varies between like 5 steps to 7 steps. So it depends on what you're looking at. So we are going to go with the 6-step system, which is idea generation, concept testing, product development, market testing, product launch, and then evaluation of results. So for each thing, we're going to delve into a little bit deeper. And then I'm also going to how it compares to like real life, and then how it compares to FRC as well, particularly into the competition side, because it's just a little bit easier to apply right now with a hands-on example. So idea generation, what is it? So it's the development of a viable new product ideas. So this is usually when you can think about brainstorming. So brainstorming is your idea generation. It's identifying the needs and the wants of your consumers. So for example, we are going to use Indigo, primarily just because that is my main example lately. So Indigo Plum Plus is a program that Indigo developed about over a year ago now. So they went through this. They already had 2 rewards programs prior to this. They had Plum Rewards, and then they had iRewards. So iRewards was a paid program, and Plum Plus is a paid program. Basically, Plum Plus is iRewards and Plum put together. But they had to brainstorm what was working, because at this point in time, I don't know the details as to why, but they had potentially stalled at getting new signups for both Plum Plus or iRewards. So they needed to come up with something new to draw in more consumers, to draw in more customers. So the FRC comparison, so say it is kickoff day. This is where you want to take a deep dive into the competition that it was just released. You want to be looking at the requirements of the game, constraints of the rules. So basically, this is where you are coming up for the basis of your robot. So that is the idea generation stage of product development. Next up would be concept testing. So concept testing is testing the new product idea among a set of potential customers. So it's using control groups. We will be talking about control groups twice in this series, but in this instance, it means gathering a cross-section of potential potential customers and pitch them the idea, see how they respond. So you will also frequently see this with any type of newspaper or like magazine. They'll grab control groups on products they want to put out into their magazine and see how they respond, see how people are responding to it. So it's quantifying the solution. Is the cost versus time worth it in the end? Is the cost going into creating this new product worth it to actually make, like, are they gonna make the money back, or is it just gonna be a waste? So I can't really compare this to the Indigo example right now, but ideally they would have had control groups of their employees, just talking amongst themselves, being like, hey, looking at customers, looking at customer feedback, is this something viable for them at this moment? So the FRC comparison is even more brainstorming. So the concept testing will be deciding what route you wish to take with your team. It's figuring out the best strategy. So the way, one way we do it on Team Dave is we will list out all the possible ways we can collect points. And then that is a version of concept testing, because we're testing out, if we were to hit this, this, and this, how many points would we get? And is this actually a viable thing? Can we actually build it? Can we actually create these subsystems for the robot? And then next up would be product development. So this is actually the most important part. So it's the development of prototypes and or the product. So it's prototyping. It's creating just enough functionality for the consumers to use without some of the features for testing. So when it comes to your product development in that initial stage, you're not going to create the full end product. You want to think about video games that have beta testers. They don't have the game fully set without bugs. There's going to be bugs in there. There's going to be issues with the game. There's not going to be all the functionality because they want you as beta testers. So you are the control group here. You are testing the concept. They want to make sure that the game is playable. They want to see where the issues are, what you are struggling as a potential consumer, what you want to fix, what you want changed. So this is where the product development stage comes as well. So you don't want everything available right away. So for FRC comparison, before you create that final CAD, before you send it out, depending to be put together. So if you have a sponsor who helps you with sheet metal, or if you just machine it, before you do that, you have to prototype. So this is where you get those wooden designs. This is where you get those wooden things, just testing out, does this idea work? And what's the best idea we can get before we actually put it into metal and put more money and more time into this. It's just testing out those basic amenities. And then next up is market testing. This is the actual testing of the product in a few markets. So like I said, control groups, but this time it's different. It's like those beta testers I was just talking about with video games. That is your control group. You have a select number of people you either sent it out to, or you have chosen specifically to test your game out to see, is this something that you want to do? Is this something that's going to work? If it comes to an actual product, so with Indigo's Plum Plus, just to bring it around back to the first example, they took it into a few select markets. So it was you want to have a diverse selection that could potentially mirror your gold markets. So you don't want to just hit those big cities where you think it will go well, and then future on you test it out into smaller markets, like smaller cities, and it's not doing so well. And you're like, you don't understand why. So with Plum Plus, Indigo actually chose specific stores that would be trying to roll out this program, being like, hey, what's the wording we want to use? Is this something that they're actually fully interested in? And then the FRC comparison of this is working with the robot at the practice field. So it's using field elements at your shop. It's practice matches with other teams. So it's having, if you have the ability to do so, because not every team does, having that practice spot with those, the initial design you had and testing it out. Do you see any glitches? Do you see anything where you can automatically improve? So for example, Team Dave in 2017, we had a completely different shooter or intake for the gears before we went to our first competition, but we had tested it out, it wasn't working, so we had to completely revamp it before our first competition at Durham. And that's where the market testing comes from. That's where you're testing at the practice field, where you want to have a robot that does function, and practice is something that's hugely important. And then after you've done that market testing, you want to actually launch your product. So it's the full-size commercialization of the product, is putting it out into the public. So Plum Plus was officially launched at all stores last year, or 2019 Christmas, I want to say. I should really know this because I work there, but I don't. So that was fully put out to the customers. Everyone was able to buy it at every store. Video games are automatically available to everybody at some point. There's that release date of everybody's going to buy it. They're all going to want to play that game. For example, for video games, I'm going to use Among Us. Among Us released their new map. That is their version of product launch. So they added something to their game. It still counts. It still counts as that product launch. And then for FRC comparison, it's the taking your robot to the first competition. It's having it actually go out and be tested against other robots that aren't ones that you've already worked with, that are fully put together, that are fully ready for the matches. And then evaluation of results. So I'm going to stay on this slide for a little bit because it's probably the most important. So evaluation of results, this is where you are looking into a deep analysis of the performance of the new product and making the appropriate modifications. So you want to look at the data, you want to look at the sales. Did it pull in customers? Did it turn away customers? Did it piss people, or did it like cause problems for people? And with this data, you want to implement any changes you see fit. So in this case, a lot of the times companies will be like, okay, cool, what worked, what didn't? You'll see games like EA Games is notorious for putting out games that are partially put out, like not fully finished, and then they'll keep adding on to it and keep adding on to it because they're realizing, oh shoot, this doesn't work. So evaluation of results isn't actually the last step in idea generation and product development generation. There is no last step because you have the evaluation results, you're going to look at it, and then you're going to go back to that first step. You're going to look again, brainstorm more ideas. How can you make it better? How can you add on to it? So again, with really quickly back to Among Us had their 3 maps. They had people that were wanting to play, and then they realized that they had people dropping out. They weren't playing it as often. So what do? They go back to that brainstorming. They come up with a new map. They test it out. They go through that entire cycle only to come back to now looking at it. It's been 5 days since the new map was released. How's it looking? Are people liking it? Are there issues? Are there bugs that they want to fix? So it's an ever continuing cycle. This is not something that you just want to stop. Okay, cool. We're going to end it here and keep moving. With Indigo, for the Plum Plus launches, they have a current promo where they never actually finished that promo because they found people were more likely to sign up with the promo. So they keep going until they get that good basis of customers, and then they might reevaluate things. Do they want to keep that promo going? Do they not? I might not get, no, I shouldn't get in trouble for saying that. But there is a promo when you sign up, and it's a continuation of that from what they did a year ago, and it keeps people interested. But they look at the data, they look at how it's working, how they're doing, and they're in a, like, you change things as you go. And then for the FRC comparison, so you're at the competition. For FRC specifically within the robot, there's 2 versions of evaluation of results. So you can do things at the competition. You're looking at the results of after each match. You're tweaking your strategy if you need to. You're making simple but quick fixes to the robot. Something breaks, you want to fix it. It is an evaluation of the results because obviously something either went wrong in the design or another robot just full on went at you and broke your system, and you just have to fix it. And then there's post-competition. So you want to look into bigger tweaks to the robot. This is very time dependent on when your next competition is. But this is when you have like a robot looks one way at one competition, sees what other robots do that they did well, and then they come back at their next competition completely different or like with some changes. It is a little bit easier nowadays with the lack of bag day and that you can continue to keep working on that robot. But prior to this, it was a lot more sneakier. Like you had to be very careful as to how big of the changes you want to be because you couldn't do as much. But it's very important. It's not just stopping at evaluation of results. It's continuing that cycle. And then when it comes to marketing through each step, you want to take a look at what you've done. And normally when it comes to any sort of marketing initiative, you aren't doing it just once. So I've talked about this before, Team Dave's contest and 2702's contest. These aren't things that they're doing just once. They brainstormed something, they went through the process, and then after each result, they look at what they have and they want to see what they can do better next time. I can say that Team Dave will be probably posting another contest this year, and they'll look at what they did wrong, not what they did wrong, but what they could do better. So you never want to look at something that you did this wrong. You want to look at it of, okay, cool, this didn't really work. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just how can we improve it? So that is where you want to look at the evaluation results. And it is 100% the most important step in this because it is what drives that cycle in the end. It's what drives the next brainstorming of like, okay, cool, we did this, now this, and then keep going through it. I know I've said it a couple times, but it really truly is a full-on cycle of development, even if it's not just the same thing being fixed. It's taking a look at, okay, cool, we had these results with this project. This one's slightly similar. So what can we learn from this? It's just that cycle of knowledge. So yeah, with that, that is it basically on the product development cycle or system. I honestly forget what I called it at this point. Product development system, there we go. So again, I'm just gonna do a quick summary. This is a quick summary of the past series. You guys can take a look at the YouTube. But yeah, I hope you guys did learn a lot. A lot of this is things that I have both Googled and also learned from experience. So I am happy to help if you have any questions at any point. Please do forward those along to me. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And this is a quick, brief look at marketing. And also I hope you understood, especially with this last series, that what you learn in marketing can be applied to any aspect of anything. It doesn't have to be just with what you do on social media, what you do with your outreach. It can be used on anything like software. It could be used in the robot. It could be used in everyday life. It just takes a matter of applying it. So yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Barb. I really enjoyed this particular part because I was able to reflect back and think about what we had done with our team. But most importantly, I have loved working with you, and it's awesome. I love that we're doing this right now, and we get to work 2702, Team Dave, all together to do all sorts of great stuff. So anyway, thank